Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. We'll get this lesson started about the weather and natural disasters in about 35 seconds. Let me just make sure that everything is working to see what things look like and what all of the blinky lights and numbers say. We'll start in 20 seconds. It's good to see some of you in the chat. Welcome to this 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time live stream. I think it will be a lot of fun. I'm going to talk about the weather, common for small talk and other things. We'll start in 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about the weather and natural disasters. They kind of go hand in hand. This is a lesson that I think you will enjoy because talking about the weather is an important part of small talk in English. Often when I'm talking to my colleagues at the beginning of the day, the first thing we'll talk about is the weather for some reason. It's a common topic because everyone experiences the weather. Everyone needs to go outside or look outside at some point, and they will see maybe the sun shining or rain coming down or some other type of weather. So because we live on this planet and because we all experience weather, it's an important topic to learn when you're learning English. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about the weather and natural disasters. Well, hey, everybody. I hope you're having a good morning. Let me do an audio check one more time. Hi to Hafiez and Mode Ags, and I see a bunch of other familiar faces. Superfect, Dequal, Amadal, Yoshi, Danny. Let me scroll back. I know Judith is here. Marian, Andras. There's a lot of people saying hi in the chat. Lolly, Judith. I'm saying names twice. Freddie Wolf. I know Burgett is here. Pedro Santos is here. I think I'm starting to say names more than once. Let me go back to the bottom. Haki is here. Hafiez is here. Nightbot has joined, and I will pin the Nightbot message that says, if you have a question about the weather and natural disasters, please use the form to ask it. So I should mention a few things, of course, before we get started. I'm Bob the Canadian. I teach English here on YouTube. I'm also a teacher in real life, but I kind of split my day between going to work, going to a school and teaching, and then working on YouTube. Actually, it's the opposite now. I work on YouTube in the morning and then I go to work mid-morning. But anyways, I love teaching. I teach high school. So welcome to my channel. A couple things about these live lessons. If you have a question, it must be about the topic. And you can use the link in the chat to go to a form to ask that question. Please do keep them on topic. It's just easier for everyone if we keep the lesson focused. If you have a question about English in general, you can ask that tomorrow because there will be another live lesson tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So put that on your calendar. If you would like to come, you can ask any question you want. Then you can ask about how to pronounce bamboozle. You can ask anything you want and I will answer it. Let me see here. Hug is here in the chat. Aya, Zircon, Vitor is here. Good to see you. Rosalia, Katerina, Taku, Judith again, Zolt. Good to see all of you in the chat. This is a live lesson. If you're watching this on January 31st at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, for sure. Anyways, should we get started? I think we should. I've spent 3 minutes rambling. Let's get this lesson going. It's nice out. So if we're going to talk about the weather, it's important that we talk about when we like the weather. And there's two really common English phrases when the weather is very pleasant. We say, oh, it's nice out today. Or we say, it's a beautiful day. This usually means the weather. Like if I say to someone, oh, it's a beautiful day today, that means I really like the weather. It normally means that the sun is shining. It normally means that maybe there are some clouds in the sky, but it's not raining. So if you were to say to me, Bob, is it nice out at your house right now? I would say no. and I'll explain the weather we're getting now. But yesterday it was nice out. And a few days ago, it was a beautiful day. So if you like the weather, you would say it's nice out, or you would say it's a beautiful day. If the sun is shining, we generally say it's sunny. So I am going to focus in this lesson on the little phrases we use. If Jen says to me, hey, what's the weather like? I could say, oh, it's sunny today. Basically saying the sun is out. That's the other phrase we use. The sun is out. There's beautiful sunshine coming down. What's the weather like? It's sunny. If this is happening though, if there is rain, we say, oh, it's raining. I could say to Jen, in the summer sometimes Jen will be at market and she might say, I think it's raining at home. She might be looking at her phone and looking at the radar and she might say, oh, I think it's raining at home, which for us in the summer is usually a good thing. For farmers, rain does count as a beautiful day because when it rains, the plants get water and then they're able to grow. So you might say it's sunny if the sun is out. You would say it's raining if it is raining. And we'll talk more about rain as we get further into this lesson. Of course, in Canada, often there is snow, and you would describe that by saying it's snowing. The other day, my son was going to go driving. He was going to go somewhere, and I said, be careful, it's snowing outside. When it's snowing outside, the roads get a little bit slippery, and you need to drive with care. You have to be cautious when it's snowing outside. It's not snowing right now. There's a phrase in the negative. It's not snowing. But again, I will explain the weather that we are experiencing in just a moment. It's a little strange for this time of year. It's windy. Nope, it's not windy either right now at my place. But when the wind blows, when you walk outside and you have to like lean because the wind is hitting you, we just say it's windy. Oh, it's really windy today. It's windy. Be careful if you are going over. We have a bridge that goes really high over part of Lake Ontario. And when it's windy, trucks sometimes go like this on the bridge and it's kind of scary. So when you have a day where there is a lot of wind, we say it's windy. It's definitely not windy right now, but it has been. Actually, earlier this week, it was really, really windy. It was so windy that I couldn't go outside to make an English lesson. I had to do it inside instead. This describes today. So right now it's cloudy. It's overcast. This is what the sky outside of my house looks like. There are a lot of clouds. It's not sunny. It's not raining. It's not, what are the other ones? It's not snowing. It's not windy. It's cloudy. It's overcast. So when you can't see the sun, when there are a lot of clouds in the sky, this is how we describe it. It's cloudy or it's windy. We also have this though, partly cloudy. So on a day like this, it might be a nice day. You can see that there are some clouds in the sky, but there's also a spot where you can see the blue sky. So we would then say it's partly cloudy. And often when you read the weather forecast, it will say tomorrow it's going to be partly cloudy. There will be some clouds in the sky, but there will be a little bit of sunshine and you will be able to see the blue sky. So it's partly cloudy. Sometimes we have showers. So another way to describe a day when there is rain is to say that there are showers. Usually we see this word on a weather forecast. I don't often use this in my everyday conversation. I might say, are there going to be showers tomorrow? But usually when you read the weather forecast, it will say showers beginning at noon, rain heavy at times. That would be like a beautiful weather forecast for a farmer in July. Showers beginning at noon, rain heavy at times. I would enjoy that kind of forecast. So showers are simply another way to describe rain. And then we have hail. So hail is when you get frozen basically frozen raindrops, like frozen solid, like hail hurts. When it's hailing, you don't want to go outside. We don't like hail because it will damage things. Hail, if it's hailing, it will damage your car. If it's hailing, it will damage the leaves on plants and trees. So hail is, of course, small frozen, I think it's frozen raindrops, but sometimes they're bigger than a raindrop. Like the other day there was hail, or last fall there was hail, and it was the size of a golf ball near us. So hail is not a nice type of weather. When it's hailing, things will get damaged. It's not good at all. We also have something called freezing rain. Now, this is different than hail because freezing rain comes down as rain. It comes down as water, but as it lands, it freezes to whatever it lands on. So you can see that rain hit these leaves, and then the rain, it was even able to drip a bit, but it also froze at the same time. Freezing rain is a very interesting phenomenon. When you have freezing rain, it's something where it's very damaging as well to plants. It can also be damaging to like wires and cables, like your electrical wires get covered in ice and eventually they might fall and break. So, but there's actually something beautiful about freezing rain as well. If we ever get freezing rain, I will be sure to make a video about it so you can see what it's like. Hey, let's look at some questions. Let me have a sip of water. Hafia says, sharp icicles considered as freezing rain. Freezing rain doesn't always create icicles. This is from the chat, by the way, from a member. Yeah, there are times where it lands and freezes instantly, and there's other times where it lands and freezes slowly. So it will start to drip a little bit and then freeze as a small icicle. Let me find my questions here. Renata, hello, Bob. It's been a while since I've been here. Hi, Renata. Good to see you. I hope you're well. Do you think the wildfires in California could have been avoided? Thanks, sir. Have a great day. Here's one thing I know about fire. So we experienced a fire in our field probably 20 years ago. And it was a windy day. And so when you have fire burning through a field, the field was all dry grass. It was early in the spring, and it was my fault. I had a fire, and that fire kind of spread. When you have wind combined with a fire, it's very difficult to get it under control. And I know the situation in California, they had wildfires, but they also had wind. Wind will just drive fire forward because it's feeding the fire with lots of oxygen. So do I think it could have been? I don't. Man, it's tough when you have a lot of dry grass and brush and wood. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it could have been. Judith, how had the tsunami in New Orleans affected your life? What kind of disaster movies have you seen? Have a great time. So extreme weather doesn't often affect me because I live in a place where we've had a couple earthquakes, but they're like so tiny, you can barely feel them. We don't have any extreme weather other than maybe a bit of flooding. So yeah, things don't really affect us here. What kind of disaster movies have you seen? I did just see Twisters a few weeks ago, the follow-up to the movie Twister. So that is one movie that I have seen. And I think I've seen San Andreas. Is that with The Rock? I think I've seen that movie as well. Henry from Taiwan. Hi, Teacher Bob. Does your school hold emergency drills for students or teach them how to deal with a natural disaster when in school? Thanks. We only do drills for fire. So just in case the building catches fire, we have a fire drill and we practice that so students know how to exit the building. We also have a drill called a lockdown drill in case someone is in our school trying to harm people. And so those are the two kinds of things we prepare for. We probably would have other drills if we did have more natural disaster type weather in our area. From Daniel, what type of weather station do you prefer? I prefer summer. So it's interesting. Weather station actually refers to a device that tells you what the weather is like outside. And I don't have a weather station, but I think you're asking a different question. I think you're asking what kind of weather do you prefer compared related to the season? I love it when it's snowing in the winter. That is my favorite kind of weather. Next to that would be when it's raining in the summer. Those would be two types of weather that I really, really enjoy. Let me do a little check here, and I will keep going with the questions. Yes, everything seems to be working properly. Inara in the chat says, thanks, Bob. You're a very amazing person. You helped a lot of people here. You are very welcome. Thank you for the kind words. Yoshi, I heard that it's rainy too. What's the difference between raining and rainy? Do you use rainy? Yeah, we sometimes do. Like, it's rainy today. Or more common would be to say it was a rainy day. Okay, that's probably the most common way to use rainy. That's from Yoshi, member in the chat. Freddie says, hail is a farmer's enemy for sure. Yeah, hail is not good. And then Hafia says, first Twister movie came out 28 years before Twisters. Yeah, there's a long delay between the two. From William Meneses. Thank you, Bob, for all lessons. My question is, what is the worst disaster that you have had occur in your country? Little fix there. God bless you. Au revoir. I think in Canada, wildfires are probably the worst disasters. We do not experience very often things like large tsunamis on the West Coast. They can happen, but I think wildfires or forest fires. We do also experience flooding at times. And then I think something like an ice storm. That's when you get a lot of freezing rain and hail, and it just breaks things. That's what, like, an ice storm is probably one of the most disastrous. From Mumin Mirza. Hi, Bob. Nice to see you again. If it rains on Sunday, will it be called rain day? No, but we would call it a rainy day related to the last question. So when you have rain, we often call it a rainy day. Let's see. From Sufain. Hi. How can I call it windy but has a lot of sand with it, because my places are a little bit of a desert? So we would say a sandstorm. I didn't include that on the list because they're not common for me. I should have. But if you live close to a desert region, or if you live close to a region with lots of sand and not a lot of plants, you might have a sandstorm when the wind picks up sand and dirt and carries it along. So that would be a sandstorm. From Rosalia, is pouring a common word to describe weather? When it rains really, really hard, we say it's pouring. And I do have a slide coming up for that in a bit. We sometimes call it a downpour. We say it's pouring. There's a phrase like it's raining cats and dogs. We don't say that very often anymore, but that's an old phrase, I think, to describe when it's pouring. There's a little rhyme too. It's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring. I don't know the rest of it, but let's see here. From Mohammed in Libya, we don't have snow except for some towns by the mountains. So I hope one day I can get to visit Canada and enjoy the snow and play with the ice. Yes, just be careful when you go on the ice for the first time. It is very, very slippery. But I hope you do have an opportunity to visit. And then from Mode, I don't preview Mode's questions. Usually I read the question before I put it on the screen, but I trust Mode. Maybe I shouldn't. Hello, Sunny Bob. Could I say we're having a nice bit of weather, spell of weather, stretch of weather today? Which of these is or are correct, and which one do you commonly use? So I would say we're having a nice bit of weather. We've had a nice stretch of weather. Both of those would work. When I say a nice spell of weather, it sounds kind of British. But I would say this. We say things like we're having a cold spell. I don't know if we say we're having a hot spell. but we're actually going to have a cold spell coming up. So that's how I would use that. You'll see when I show you the forecast slide. It's a little warm here, but there's a cold spell coming. So yeah, in terms of the 1st and the 3rd, we're having a nice bit of weather. We're having a nice stretch of weather. Yes. And then, yeah, I would talk about a cold spell. A hot spell? I guess we might say that. Yeah, good question. Let's see. From Peter. Peter wasn't able to come today. Peter says, "Hi, Mr. Bob. How are you today?" I'm doing well. Your live stream is nice today. I wish I were able to watch it, but I will watch it later. So a couple little fixes when I read that. Have a great day. More bless. Thank you, Peter, for leaving just a little note there. Okay. I think we're going to go back to the lesson. Let me have a sip of water here and read the chat. Ralph says, "Hi, everybody. Too late as usual. I was already here an hour too early and now 15 minutes too late." Well, hope you'll get it right. It's partially my fault, Ralph, because I am now doing these at 8:30. So sorry for being an hour early. And hi to Key Park, who's joined. Ralph and Key Park are here. Lolly Lolly's here too. Good to see all of you. Okay, let's go back to the slides. I think I'm ready. Where were we at? Freezing rain. The forecast. So the forecast is when people try to predict what the weather will be like. You can see that last night it was -1. This is actually the forecast. Right now it's 2 degrees, but tonight it's going to be -12 degrees. Tomorrow morning it's going to be -6. Tomorrow night it's going to be -9. So we're definitely heading for a cold spell. I would use the word spell. We're heading for a cold spell. You might also call it a cold snap because it's happening so quickly. So when the temperature quickly goes from warm to cold, you might say we're going to have a cold snap. But that is the forecast. This is what they think. Chance of showers today. So there's the word showers. But tonight it will be snow. Tomorrow, sunny and -6 degrees. And then cloudy. I also want to talk a little bit about temperature here. You can see that it's going to be 2 degrees. We use the same phrase. It's sunny, it's 2 degrees. It's raining, it's 3 degrees. So you just say it's and then the temperature if you're talking about temperature. I think I have a slide for that coming up. Probably this one, the very next one. So here you can see the temperature. I would say it's 2 degrees. And then I would say it's going to be -12 tonight. You also can see here the high and low temperature for the day. So often people will want to know what the high will be and what the low will be. So when you're talking about weather, if someone says, "What's the high going to be today?" They want to know how warm will it be. In the summer, you might say, "Oh, the high is going to be 30 degrees Celsius." What's the low going to be? It's going to be, well, in the summer, probably 18 degrees Celsius. So now the high for today is going to be 2 degrees, the low -12. That's how you would describe the temperature. What's the temperature right now? It's 2 degrees. What's the high? It's going to be 12 degrees. Radar. So I tried to put some labels on this map for you. Radar is what you use when you want to see if rain or snow is coming to your area, or if it's already in your area, you want to see if it's moving away from you. So on this map, you can see there's me at the bottom, Bob in Canada, and there's Brent. I don't know if you guys know Brent. Many of you do. He's up there in Maine. So you can see this was the radar last night. We are actually expecting a snowstorm later today. It's closer than you think, but if you see the green, I can't point that far. If you see the green way over there, that is some snow slowly moving to our area. So radar, you can go on the internet and you can pull up the radar and you can see what the weather is doing and kind of get a sense of where the rain is moving to. So if you look at the radar for my area right now, the green is a lot closer than it is on this map from last night. And generally, just so you know, Brent gets the same weather as me a bit later sometimes. Most of the time in North America, the weather patterns are moving from west to east. So sometimes I'll get weather and then 12 hours later, Brent gets it. Occasionally it will be reversed, but that's generally been the trend most of the time. Humidity. So humidity is something Bob doesn't like. And I should have on this slide put the phrase, it's humid. Humidity is when there's a lot of moisture in the air, when there's a lot of water in the air. So in the summer, we have a lot of humidity. They'll even say things like this: it's going to be 30 degrees today, but with the humidity, it's going to feel like 37 degrees Celsius. So we also call that the humidex. But humidity is moisture in the air, water in the air, because that's what air can do. We don't have a lot of humidity in the winter here. The air is actually quite dry. Cold air can't carry as much water or moisture. This is another way to describe today at my place. It's cloudy, but it's also foggy. It's foggy outside, so I will need to be careful when I drive to work later. Hopefully the fog is gone by then, but when it's foggy, there is a lot of moisture in the air. I'm assuming when it's foggy, the humidity is like 100%, but when it's foggy, there's so much humidity and water in the air, it's difficult to see very far. Often in the early fall, there will be lots of fog because the ground and the water, like the river and lakes, are still very warm, but the air is cold. So there's lots of fog that forms. So today at Bob's place, it's rainy. Sorry, today at Bob's place, it's overcast and it's foggy and it's 2 degrees. Dew. So dew is this interesting thing that forms early in the morning in the warmer months in my country. So in the summer, when you get up early in the morning, everything is actually a little bit wet. Dew forms because of the temperature differences between the earth and the air, and water comes out of the air and forms on plants and leaves and those kinds of things. So it's really cool when you can see the dew. It's actually annoying as well, because if you go for a walk early in the morning in the summer when there's lots of dew, your shoes and feet get very, very wet. So yes, the dew. And then there's frost. So frost is something that is similar to dew, except it is actually frozen because it's so cold outside. We generally only have frost in the fall, and then we have frost again in the spring, like more than once, but usually around late September, early October in my part of the world. When you get up in the morning, there will be frost. So things will have a small layer of frozen water on them. It's basically frozen dew, I think. And then also in May, when temperatures are going above zero during the day and like close to zero or slightly below at night, we will have frost in the morning. You might have to even clean your car windows because they will have frost on them. Thunder and lightning. So when I was a kid, I always loved thunderstorms. I liked hearing thunder and seeing lightning. A lot of times we would try to guess how far away a storm was. If we saw the lightning, we would count like 1001, 1002. And then when we heard the thunder, we would say, oh, the storm is 2 kilometers away. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but as a kid, we often would watch we would watch lightning and hear thunder. So again, lightning is an electrical release between a cloud and the ground, or a cloud and another cloud. And it shows up as a giant spark in the sky. There's a lot of energy in a lightning strike. So here you see lightning. This actually looks like an AI picture, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe it's real. But you see lightning, and then a little while later, you will hear thunder, because the lightning strike, I think it does something to the air that causes it to, does lightning split the air? This is not a science lesson, but after lightning, you will hear thunder, and it's cool. It's quite amazing. Okay, different types of rain. You could say it's spitting. This is when it's just raining a little bit. Okay, so you go outside, you don't need an umbrella when it's spitting. It simply means if you looked at a puddle like this, you would see a few raindrops hitting it. If it's spitting outside, I will go outside with my camera and make an English lesson. I'm not worried at all. When it's spitting, I don't need an umbrella. I don't even really need a jacket. I could easily walk to my car and it wouldn't be a problem. I wouldn't get wet. When it's drizzling, it's raining a little bit more. So spitting, tiny bit of rain, drizzling, a little more rain. Usually the raindrops are quite small when it's drizzling, but it's definitely a little more rain than spitting. You might need an umbrella if it's drizzling outside. And then we have light showers. When you have light showers, it's definitely raining. It's not like a downpour or something where you would get soaking wet walking from a building to your car, but definitely light showers means it's raining. Like I would say on a scale of 1 to 5, this is a 3. So 1 is like spitting, 2 is drizzling, 3 is light showers. And then this is a 5. I guess there's no 4 on my scale. It's pouring. When it's pouring, you need an umbrella. When it's pouring, even if you have an umbrella, you will probably still get a little bit wet. That's generally how it works when it's raining that hard. And of course, we have what's called a thunderstorm. So a thunderstorm is a cloud system, a weather system that brings with it lightning and thunder. So in the summer, we sometimes will have a thunderstorm at night. It actually sounds like someone stomping on the roof of my house sometimes when we have a thunderstorm. But these are fun to watch. Sometimes we'll stand in the barn and we will watch a thunderstorm roll in, and we'll watch the lightning, and then eventually it will start. Eventually it will be pouring and lots of rain will be coming down. But yes, thunderstorms. I think I like thunderstorms. So snowstorm, thunderstorm, those are good. I like them. Hey, let's do members only chat for a sec. I need a drink of water too. Been talking a lot this week. For those of you that follow along with how my life works, I started a new semester at school. So we finished first semester and it's now second semester. And yeah, it requires me to talk a lot more. So I see here, oh yeah, hey, Brent's here. Hey, Brent, I hope you saw the map under radar. I showed people where you live, Brent. I put an arrow on the map of North America. I don't think that will show them exactly, but anyways, nice to see you, Brent. Yes, if you are a member, you can ask questions directly in the chat and I will answer them. If you are not a member, stay, don't go away. The lesson will continue in just a moment. A couple things as well to mention to everyone. There will be a live Q&A English lesson tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget, it will be right here in this room because as you might recall, it's going to be -6 tomorrow. So I'm not going outside. So please come for that. Let me see here. I am going to keep answering questions from the chat or from the form as well. Let's get one on the screen and then I'll start down with the chat from Know That. Hi, Know That. Hello, Bob. What was the worst power outage you've experienced due to extreme weather conditions or in general, and how long did it take until you had power again? Thanks, Bob. So I don't remember how long ago this was, but we had an ice storm, I would say almost 15 years ago now, and the power was out for almost 4 days. We did have a generator, but the weather was so bad, it was hard to keep it running. Like it's kind of hard to explain, like freezing rain just is hard on everything. So we had a generator under some plywood, but then eventually we ran out of gas. Thankfully, it was in April, and so we didn't need heat Like it was cold, but it wasn't below zero. But yeah, that was the worst one I can remember. There were power lines down everywhere. You couldn't drive anywhere to get more gas because the roads were too dangerous. So that's the worst one. In the chat, Mode Eggs, a thunderstorm is fun to watch until it hits so close. Yes. Thunderstorms are fun when you're in a safe place. They're not fun when let's say you're in a grocery store and you want to run to your car. That's when a thunderstorm is not fun. Know that. Hey, Bob, are the weather conditions where you live the same as they were when you were a child, or have you noticed a change? Thanks in advance. What we've noticed here is we have more extreme weather. So weather that will damage trees. And the other thing we've noticed is the frost dates have moved a bit. So normally here, you could still get frost at the end of May. It's been fairly rare to get frost at the end of May because I think things are warmer. And then in the fall, usually like 25 years ago, we would have frost in the middle of September. And now it seems to be towards the end of September, beginning of October. So I think it's gotten, we call it the bookends of the growing season. So the start and end of the growing season, I think have moved a little bit in our favor, by the way, because we are a cold climate. So it's nice to have a little more warmth. Freddie saying hi to Brent. Mode says to Brent, Bob just gave away your whereabouts to 1 million people. He lives in Maine. He lives in the state of Maine. Sorry, I got sidetracked in my head there. Is there an intersection state and Maine? But there's also the state of Maine. I don't know. Anyways, Hafia says, based from the map, I'm sort of guessing Bob and Brent's next meetup will be in Ohio. It'll be somewhere in the middle, maybe. That's all I'll say. Freddie Wolf, Bob, sorry I've gotten a short phone call during your live. Did you mention the high-low pressure system? Un grand merci à toi. I did not. So when you have a low pressure system, it means weather will come. When you have a high pressure system, the weather will stay the same. I don't totally understand how that works, but there are pressure systems. How dense the air is affects how the weather will go. Key Park. Hello, Bob. I'm so sorry. I even forgot today is Friday. that happens to me sometimes too. We are in our new Lunar New Year. Oh yeah, Happy New Year. Vacation. Today is the 3rd January of Snake Year. It's overcast over here today. Yes. Overcast is not a happy kind of weather. But anyways, Happy New Year. Yes. Happy Lunar New Year. Hafia says the hot weather. Oh, Brent's talking to Hafia. Very cool. Hafia says the hot weather system seems way hotter than maybe around 10 years ago. And the rainy season here seems like it's not following the rainy season. Yeah. You know, if you remember the slide I had up with the forecast, like it's 2 degrees now, and then it's going to be minus 10 or 12 tonight, and then -6 tomorrow, and then -9 tomorrow. Like it feels like the weather has lost its mind. That's how I will describe it. Jamal says, hi everyone. Hi, Jamal. Mode says, to you, what's the difference between what's the weather like and how's the weather? If there's any difference at all? No, they're the same. Like, hey, what's the weather like today? How's the weather today? That would be like, let's say I wake up and I haven't looked outside yet and I'm on my phone. I might text my brother and say, hey, what's the weather like where you are? How's the weather today where you are? That would be a totally common question. Yeah. Brent says, did you experience the ice storm back in like 97 or 98? My parents lost power for over 2 weeks. I don't know if we did, Brent, but I do know like there's been northern US states and Canadian provinces like Ontario and Quebec. We often help each other out when there is an ice storm. Ice storms just cause too much damage for the local electrical people and stuff to fix everything. So I know that when we had a bad ice storm here, there were like trucks from US states that came to help fix things. I know that when there was an ice storm, maybe in Maine, we sent trucks and people to go help fix it. So often when there is a disaster, even though we are different countries, we will quickly help each other because that's what good people do, I think. Know that says, is there someone like a fire department that looks after people who are cut off from the rest in extreme weather conditions? It depends where you live. I live out in the country, so I'm kind of on my own if there's bad weather. They will, of course, try to fix any problems, like if there's no electricity. They will definitely come if we're having a fire. Like when I lit my field on fire, the fire department did come and help put the fire out. But generally, like in an ice storm or a blizzard, when there's lots of snow, people will check in on their neighbors, and people who have the right vehicles will make sure everyone is okay. So we had a large blizzard here when I was 8 years old. So anyone who owned a snowmobile would go out and check to make sure, oh, are all the neighbors okay? Do they need groceries or anything? No, that says people like you who live far outside the town to make sure everything is okay. Yeah, you know, if I was in town, everything's just a little quicker. But Hockey, do you believe climate change? Let's see here, where everything just scrolled for a sec. Do you believe I do actually. However, some people think that it's not true. What's your opinion about it? All I will say is this. Our growing season seems to be getting longer. So something must be changing. So it's like almost 3 weeks longer. We can plant corn here almost the end of April now, and we used to wait till the middle of May. We can plant soybeans here the second week of May, and we used to wait till the third or fourth week of May. So I know I'm not a scientist, but that's definitely different. Jamal says, please, I can't download the sheet form. You need to be logged in to a Google account to submit a question, Jamal. Freddie, Bob, as Canada is so large, are there as many weather forecast stations as provinces that exist? By the way, do you believe in frogs that would be able to predict the weather? No, I don't believe frogs can predict the weather. I do know that sometimes you'll hear all of the animals get really quiet, and then you know some kind of strange weather is coming. Canada has a lot of weather forecast stations. In fact, sometimes I think I'm too far from where the radar is because it's not 100% accurate. Brent says, yeah, it's never a good sign when Canadian power trucks are in the area. Yes, when weather gets bad, you help your friends. Hafiez, speaking of frogs, I have a colleague whose major is environmental science. He can predict the weather just from the sounds of frogs, croaks, and ribbits. You know, animals are quite sensitive to natural phenomenon like weather, natural disasters, and those kinds of things. So it wouldn't surprise me if they are able to sense how the weather is changing. Okay, give me a minute here. I'm going to turn off members only chat, and we are going to get back to the lesson. I think I answered all the questions. No, that says, besides your Q&A lesson tomorrow, do you have anything else planned for the weekend, Bob? No, not really. I have to get ready I have a busy week at school next week. So even though I work later in the day, I have to actually be there earlier. So I got to figure out how to get some YouTube work done early. So I hope I didn't skip anybody. Okay, let me have a sip of water. Sorry that I had to split my question, Bob. No problem. I can handle it. Okay, by the way, I will try to answer all the questions, but we are going to finish the lesson first. So I see Mumin Mirza says, do some questions. I will get to them in a bit. Let's finish this lesson off and then finish off the questions. Here we go. A blizzard. A blizzard is when you get snow and then more snow and then more snow and more snow, and it keeps piling up and it doesn't stop. When it snows for 2 or 3 days, it is a blizzard. Along with the snow, there's usually a lot of wind. So if I said to Jen, it's snowing and it's windy and it's going to be a bad drive home from school, I hope this isn't a blizzard. That would mean that there's snow on the ground, there's snow coming down, the wind is blowing, and the forecast says it's going to continue. So a blizzard, in my opinion, isn't as bad as an ice storm. So a blizzard is just lots of snow. Sometimes you're stuck at home for a few days. But yeah, I haven't experienced a blizzard for a few years. They make it very dangerous to drive as well. But again, a blizzard, lots of snow, lots of wind for many days in a row. Hurricane or typhoon or cyclone. So this is a large storm in North America, hurricanes often form in the Atlantic, and then they hit land somewhere along the coast of the United States. Usually they come from, this is a fairly accurate map of hurricane season. Sometimes they come from lower, but generally they hit far below where I live in North America. And so they're really, and what is a hurricane? It's a lot of wind, it's a lot of rain, a lot of high winds, like 100 kilometer an hour, 120 kilometer an hour, 130 kilometer an hour winds which damage things. So when it is hurricane season, every once in a while we'll get lots of rain, because once the hurricane hits land, it starts to slow down and spread out. And by the time it gets to my house, it's not a hurricane anymore. Sometimes it's just a couple days of rain. But a hurricane, a very strong storm that forms above probably warm water where there's lots of moisture in the air, gets very strong, hits the shore. Tornado or twister. So, I do have funnel cloud. Okay, so a tornado or twister is when the air is spinning very quickly, and it kind of forms in the cloud and touches the ground and moves along. In the tornado, the winds are moving, honestly, at ridiculous speeds. The spinning of the tornado is so fast, it will just destroy buildings. It will flip cars over. It is not good. We do not have tornadoes or twisters in my area, but in the Midwest of the United States, there's an area that covers a few states where it's very common to have tornadoes during tornado season. Like there's a time of year where they just have more of them. So it's a weather system that forms a funnel cloud, which eventually touches the ground and becomes a tornado. So slight difference. A tornado is actually touching the ground and swirling and moving along. A funnel cloud is like a baby tornado. Again, this is not a science lesson, but the air and the cloud is starting to spin, and it might eventually touch the ground and grow and become a funnel cloud. Very dangerous. Not very, I do not recommend going out if there are funnel clouds and tornadoes in your area. A flood. So this is a pretty common type of natural disaster around the world. By the way, we just moved into natural disasters. Blizzards, kind of a natural disaster if it's big enough and long enough. Hurricane, definitely. Tornadoes are a form of a natural disaster. And then we have floods. So a flood is when, for lack of a better word, when there's too much water where there isn't supposed to be water. Usually it might be close to a river or a lake where the water has continued to rise. And now there's water in the town, and there's water across the roads, and houses are starting to get damaged because there's water in the first floor of the house. So a flood is when you have excessive rainfall, you have too much rain, and then all of the rivers and streams and lakes get fuller and fuller. The water can't get away fast enough, and eventually you will have a flood. We have a small flood a few times a year down by our river, but no one has houses close enough for it to do damage, because I think people know that the river floods every spring and every fall, so no one ever builds houses close to that. But a flood, too much water where you don't want water. An earthquake is when, so the earth is made up of plates. So there are different huge sections that can move. And when those sections move, all of us little people living on top feel the earth shaking. I've experienced 2 earthquakes here in my life. We do have earthquakes, but all you really feel is, for a couple of seconds, you just feel off balance a little bit. Nothing started shaking or anything like that the last time we had an earthquake, but we do have them, and they're just very, very minor. In some parts of the world, they'll say that the earthquake was a certain number on the Richter scale, and it did damage, and buildings fell over, and other things. But an earthquake, Plates of the earth moving, causing, again, all of us little people and all our little buildings. Like if this is the earth and we're here, and then it's just, yeah, the earth is angry. That's what I would say when there is an earthquake. Tsunami. So a tsunami is when you have a large wave from the ocean hit the shore because there was an earthquake somewhere out in the ocean. So it caused the water to start to move, and that movement of the water comes as a giant wave. So tsunamis often happen, well, not often, but the last ones have been in the Pacific. We know there was a tsunami that hit Japan years ago, but it is just highly destructive because the wave is much bigger than what people are used to. When you live on the ocean, there are small waves. It's normal. When there's a tsunami, the wave is 5, 10, 20 times bigger than normal and very, very destructive. And you don't say the T. This is an English lesson, a tsunami. A volcanic eruption. So when a volcano erupts, it means that hot magma and lava from the center of the earth has come to the surface, and it just kind of explodes and spreads everywhere. So volcanic eruption, the last one I think in Hawaii was very destructive, and there was lava flowing. Well, there's definitely lava flowing. I don't know all the details of what exactly was happening on the geothermal level, but a volcanic eruption can be very destructive as well. The earth is a big place, and when the earth starts to shake, and when the earth starts to form tsunamis, and when volcanoes erupt, it's very, very dangerous for humans. So lots of lava will come out, which is molten rock that can flow, and it will destroy things. And then, of course, forest fire or wildfire. I put this lesson together a few weeks ago when I was reading about the wildfires in Los Angeles. And I thought I should do a lesson on weather and natural disasters. I didn't want to do it right in that time because when people are experiencing it, it's very sensitive to talk about it. But yeah, they had wildfires. So the difference between a wildfire and a forest fire is a kind of wildfire. I guess wildfire is a general term for a fire that is out of control, burning grass, brush, bushes, trees, everything in its path. A forest fire is, of course, just a fire that's out of control in a forest. So slight difference, but you can probably call them the same thing, but definitely very destructive. And again, as I mentioned earlier, when it's windy, it's very difficult to control a fire. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that. When I had a small brush fire on my farm, it was windy. Jen and I could not control it. We had to call the fire department. So wind just makes fire go fast and spread. But anyways, forest fire, an uncontrolled large fire in a forest. Wildfire, an uncontrolled large fire, in an area where there's just lots of dry grass, dry brush, bushes, trees, and it just consumes everything. And then there's drought. So a drought, simply put, is the opposite of a flood. When you have lots of rain, eventually you might have a flood. When it doesn't rain for a long time, you will eventually have a drought. So then a drought is a significant lack of water. When you don't have enough water, when there's not enough rain, the ground dries up. Plants start to die. Animals have trouble finding water to drink. People have trouble finding good drinking water. So when you have a drought, it's devastating because a drought happens slowly as well. Like you slowly run out of water. You slowly see plants start to die. So, and sometimes a drought is also accompanied with lots of hot weather. So not only is it not raining, but it's sunny every day and things dry up. Not very nice. Droughts are not very nice. That's it for the traditional lesson. Let's finish all the questions and then I can head off to work in a bit. Let me see here in the chat. I'm just reading through. Just imagine a meteorologist reacting to Bob's descriptions. Yeah, I always imagine like the super sciencey people watching my lesson, and they're like, "That's not exactly how earthquakes work." But, anyways, earthquakes are when the earth shakes. That's when the earth is angry. Let's see here. No, that says you also have some big fires in Canada, which weren't too long ago either, Bob. Yes, there was the one year where we could, like, you could smell smoke in my area, and the fires were hundreds of kilometers away. Mode says, I like how Mr. Bob is taking his time to explain things in detail. It's like he has all morning to teach us. Oh, wait, he kind of does. Yes, I do. And then Mode says, okay, I'm signing off now. Enjoy your morning walk, Mr. Bob, and enjoy the rest of the lesson. Yes. Okay. Thanks, Mode, for watching, and thanks for leaving comments. Let me get to the questions, and we will... Oh, yeah, there's about 6 left. We'll get through it. Hopefully, Mumin Mirza is still here. What is the difference between weather and climate? And then question 2, have you ever experienced an extreme natural disaster? If yes, what was it like? So I think weather is like what it's doing today. And to me, climate would be what it's like in general throughout the year. So I live in a cold climate, but we still have 4 seasons. And so I think that's what I would say. Like, what's the weather like? Today it's overcast. What's your climate like? Oh, we have winter, and then we actually have a warm summer. So I think it's how close you are to when the weather is happening. So if it's today, it's weather. If it's next week, it's weather. If it's like, what's it like all year where you live, that's the climate. And it's probably, there's probably a better description than that, but that would be what I would say. Constantin, hi Bob, no questions, only respect to you for your really useful lessons. Thank you for the kind words. I do appreciate that. From Julia, from Brazil, hi teacher, your videos help me a lot to improve my English. In Brazil, we have high temperatures. It's sunny in all seasons. Yeah, I don't know what that's like. Someday I should live somewhere where there's no winter for a year to see what it is like. From someone, hi Bob, could you share one of the most memorable weather events you've experienced in your lifetime? Thanks. And I think I kind of skipped over the other question asked too about a natural disaster. I will just say it's probably the ice storm that we had, because not having electricity for 3.5 days, like not having electricity for 1 day is manageable. Not having it for 2 days, that's not too bad. But by day 3, you're really worried. Like we have to find a way to make sure our freezer keeps running so our food doesn't go bad. Like there were a lot of serious problems by the end of day 2. So that's probably the biggest. And then when I was a kid, we had a blizzard in 1977 or 78. I was only like 6 years old, but I do remember it. There was a snowdrift in our yard that was as high as the hydro wire, the electrical wire, like 10 meters tall. It was, I liked it as a kid. It was very cool, but it was not cool for my parents. From Vitor, some birds were eating the wires on the roof of my house and it caused a short circuit. For me, it felt like a natural disaster. I can see that. Yes, it can feel like a natural disaster when that happens. And then from Unsel, hi Unsel. Hi, have you ever experienced an earthquake? Not a real one, just like minor. What natural disaster has affected or frightened you the most? Thanks, bye. So for me, I talked about the ice storm, but the weather I hate the most in terms of extreme weather is when the wind is above 80 or 90 kilometers an hour. When the wind is like 110 or 120 kilometers an hour, which does happen here, it is destructive. So that is probably the weather that I really, really don't like. I do not enjoy extreme windstorms. Okay, a couple things you need to know. Number 1, there's a live stream tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let me put that in the chat as well. Live again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This lesson will come out again in a couple days, and it will be shorter. I will remove all of the viewer questions and make it a nice 25, 28-minute lesson on the weather and natural disasters. You should watch it again. I know some of you don't want to, But when you're learning a language, if you can listen or watch twice or even 3 times, it will really help you remember what you've learned. Much easier to do with a little 8-minute video. But if you are chopping up vegetables for supper, if you are riding on the bus, whatever you're doing, try to listen to this lesson again, the shorter version. It is a good idea. And I did say I'm live tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll be in this room. I won't be outside. Was there anything else? No. If you haven't watched this past Tuesday's video, you should go watch it. I think I can put the link right here. Let me see if this works. Don't know what the command is for my last video. Oh, yes. And in that video, I sat on that couch and I talked about whether books are still useful for learning English. And then lastly, if you're not a member, consider becoming a member. It's a good way. If sometimes people want to thank me, if you want to thank me, join for a month or 2. That is awesome. There's a join button somewhere that you can find. Anyways, bye everybody. Have a good day. I'm really going to enjoy not rushing off to work when I'm done my live lesson. This is a very nice feeling. I don't actually start teaching until 12:30. I don't have to be at work for another hour. So it's very nice. So expect me to be a little bit long-winded. Let me start saying bye to people. Freddie Wolf says, Bob, even though it'll be sunny tomorrow, I guess it'd be too cold to make it outside. Yes. Better not, because we could get Bob, turn Bob into a snowman. Yes. Okay. Bye to Know That, Lolly Lolly, Mimin Mirza, Key Park, Sylvan, Burgett, Vitor, Key Park, John, Cat Diary, Tomik, Ralph, Hockey, Hug, Unsel, Mumin Mirza. I'm saying names twice. Usually I can remember which name I've said, but let me just type in the chat. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend. There we go. I hope you do. I hope you have a good weekend. Hope to see you tomorrow. Bye.